All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you all having a good day so far. Excuse my voice today. I'm still experiencing some major allergies. It's going on to a point where I think I might just be sick. I don't know. But either way, my voice is a little hoarse, but I'm going to do my best here. I've been putting this one off for enough days now, and I've had so many requests to do this that it's time to do it. This is the Ultimate 1980s Michael Jordan Deep Dive, which just came out about a week ago, and it's from Basketball Universe. This is one of those I've been wanting to check out on my own, but I promised enough people I would react to it, so here we are. Anyways, without further ado, so I don't blow out my voice before we even get into this video, I'm going to link the original video down below in the description for you all. So if you guys want to check it out, go for it. Basketball Universe, great channel, good stuff. Highly recommend it. And everybody, please leave this video a like. It helps out a ton. And the more likes I get, the more likely my voice clears up at the next video. That's just how the magic works, right? Anyways, here we go.
Accomplished in the 90s. What Michael Jordan accomplished in the 90s made him the GOAT. What he accomplished in the 80s shouldn't be dismissed. It
he had 2 Hall of Fame careers, in my opinion.
Categorically made him the single greatest individual talent we've ever seen.
Yep.
The feats that he was accomplishing made him the most important athlete of our time. That was even before he was winning championships. For many basketball fans, that was even before he was winning championships.
Who else had this? I had this. Man, I miss Michael Jordan being on those Wheaties boxes.
For many basketball fans, the 80s version of Jordan was more entertaining and dominant individually. You can watch any random game from that decade, and you'll surely find a move that you've never seen before. The numbers he was posting was equally as impressive. During that span, he averaged a combined 32.6 points on 51% shooting, 6.2 rebounds, 5.9 assists, 2.8 steals, and 1.2 blocks per game. How many players have had a better 5-year stretch? You aren't going to find many. Here's what else he accomplished. He won an MVP, Defensive Player of the Year award, 3 scoring titles. He was selected to the All-NBA First Team 3 times.
Dang, I'm actually surprised. He only won 3 scoring titles in the 80s. I mean, technically he played 6 seasons, but really he was only valid for 5. Okay, never mind. It makes sense. It's cool.
All-NBA First Team defense 2 times. Including the playoffs, he posted 69 40-point games, 22 50-point games, and 21 triple-doubles.
Good Lord.
If he would have retired in 1989, he would have finished 11th in career 40-point games. He would have more than legends such as Steph Curry, Jerry West, Damian Lillard, and Dominique Wilkins. He would have finished 4th all-time in career 50-point games, and among the top 30 in career triple-doubles. That is easily a first-ballot Hall of Fame resume, and then some.
I'm glad he's getting to that, because I stand by it. 80s Jordan, if he would have retired before ever winning a championship, he's still in the Hall of Fame.
There's only so much that we can get from the numbers, so we're going to go through each season from the 80s. We're going to discuss the context of each season, and with each deep dive, we'll see exactly why this version of Michael Jordan was so special. The signs were right there in front of everyone. He showed why he would become the greatest player of all time right from the beginning. For 99% of basketball players, the first 2 seasons are to adjust at the pro level, to make your mistakes and grow.
Yep.
Very few can dominate the league right from the beginning. That list is even smaller when you're considered the best player in the league. Michael Jordan was one of those few exceptions.
Yes, sir.
If you don't believe me, check out what was written in the UPI, or the United Press International, in 1985. They wrote that he won the 1985 NBA Player of the Year, and he was the first rookie to win the award in its 11-year history.
Oh, wow.
This should not be confused with the Most Valuable Player award. That was won by Larry Bird. However, he endorsed Jordan as the league's best individual talent.
Yeah,
He mentioned to the newspaper, quote, "I still feel he's the best in the league," end of quote.
Yeah, and if we did just player of the year as opposed to most valuable player like that, Man, I'm pretty sure MJ would have won every single year. Kobe would have won a freaking dozen of them, instead of just getting one MVP like he did. Because if we're taking the team out and we're just talking about individual talent, doesn't get much better.
I think that's the ultimate compliment. He went even further than that after one of their matchups during the season. This is what was written by the Chicago Tribune in 1985. Quote, Bird recently volunteered his vote for Jordan as the finest athlete he'd ever witnessed. He went off to say, he's the best ever. Wait, hold on for just a darn second. The best ever? Better than the reigning MVP himself.
Yeah.
Better than Magic Johnson,
Yep.
Wilt Chamberlain, or Bill Russell. He went on to say, yup, at this stage in his career, he's doing more than I ever did, and I couldn't do what he did as a rookie. End of quote. Then he went on to explain in detail some of the breathtaking moves that he made at the expense of his team. No matter what they did, they couldn't stop him. This was proven in one of their matchups where Michael had a dominant performance. He ended up with 41 points on 56% shooting, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals. Larry Bird couldn't help but admire his showmanship and the never-before-seen moves. And the fact that he was toying with the defending champion.
Look at that control. Look at that control he has every way.
And the never
Boop. Quick pump fake, move over. Got you again. not again. I got another guy. Got you in the air and one. And then I think he's going off the glass too to just add to the fundamentals.
And the fact that he was
come on, man.
Toying with the defending champions must have instantly earned his respect. There was just something different about him, and Bird was able to recognize it from the start. But Larry wasn't his only victim. There were a multitude of legendary players who were able to see firsthand how special Jordan was. We first have Dominique Wilkins. Michael had an incredible all-around game. He had 45 points on 71% shooting, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, and 4 blocks against the Atlanta Hawks. Then there was George Gervin. He torched the Spurs with 45 points on 67% shooting, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks.
Jesus.
Then there was the player he was linked to the most. That's the doctor, Julius Erving. We don't want to forget how low the Sixers were that season. They also had Moses Malone, Maurice Cheeks, Andrew Toney, and the rookie Charles Barkley. Even with all that
this is really fresh off of championship Sixers
talent, Jordan gave the Sixers 40 points on 62% shooting.
62.
Although this came in a loss, the message was clear. No one was safe from a scoring onslaught. The bigger the moment, the greater the competition, he was going to rise to the occasion. The world was taking notice, and he quickly became the biggest attraction in the NBA. So much so that he was voted to start for the East team in the All-Star game. He even received more votes than Larry Bird and Dr. J.
Yes, sir.
Some players didn't react well to that.
That's a rookie, everyone.
That is when the infamous freeze-out game occurred. Depending on who you believe, his teammates at the All-Star game actively tried to give him as little opportunities to score. This video isn't about this well-documented event, so we won't go too in-depth about what happened.
Yeah.
In retrospect, it feels like it was a misunderstanding between both parties. The veterans took his quiet demeanor during the All-Star weekend as cockiness, while he was trying to be respectful to the greats. But there's no...
I've heard Jordan talk about that, actually. And he said that first year, actually he said the first couple of years, so that would be this one, 85, and then again in 87. He said those 2 years he just tried to fit in because he was amongst the biggest stars in the league. So he said, I didn't expect much. I didn't want to step on any toes. So I guess that makes sense that he had a quiet demeanor because he wasn't trying to steal the limelight from all the rest of the stars.
Doubt that he felt disrespected by how his teammates treated him. This is where the NBA world saw a whole other side to this rookie. 2 days after the freeze-out game, he faced a player that was allegedly the mastermind behind this conspiracy, Isaiah Thomas. It is not a coincidence that he had the best performance of his rookie season. You could tell that he was fueled with anger, but he knew how to channel that anger and to play under control. It only makes him play better, as scary as that sounds. He ended the game with 49 points on...
That's my least favorite Bulls jersey. during Jordan's tenure. By the way, I do like the cursive Chicago one that they have. Anyways, I interrupted some stats here. Oh,
ended the game with 49 points on 61% shooting.
49 points on 61% shooting. God. Efficiency, man.
15 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals.
Good Lord.
I assure you that it's not speculation that he was fueled by the events that occurred at the All-Star game.
100%.
During his Hall of Fame speech, he personally thanked Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, and George Gervin for the alleged freeze-out game. He said he felt motivated to prove to them all why he was already at their level. Either you're born with that killer instinct or you have to adopt it. He had it right from the start. By the time the season ended, the numbers indicated that he was at their level. He led the league in points scored and was third in points per game. He also finished fourth in steals per game. From an analytical perspective, he finished second in win shares, offensive win shares, PER, box plus minus, and value over replacement player rating. In other words, he gave so much value to a team that struggled for years. The Bulls finished with the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference, and they were able to increase their win total by 11 games.
Nice.
These weren't just empty stats. He was carrying his team to playoff contention.
Yeah. But when stats convert to losses, they're empty. When stats converts to wins, that's what it's all about. And there's no denying it. Without Jordan, you lose more. With Jordan, you're going to win 11 more games.
That's what Larry Bird noticed, and he mentioned how important he was for the Bulls. He said this after calling him the best player, quote, "I have never seen one player turn a team around like that. All the Bulls have become better because of him."
I only saw it one more time, and that was Steve Nash, 2004, 2005. I think 2005. Anyways, for first year of MVP Nash, that was the only other time, and it was even more drastic than this, actually.
Orlando Woolridge will probably be an all-star for the rest of his career. End of quote. Larry knew a thing or two about turning a team's fortunes around as a rookie. Michael was displaying the same qualities he did in his legendary rookie season. The only thing he was off about was Orlando Woolridge being an all-star for the rest of his career. But that later would apply to Scottie Pippen. That's just the Michael Jordan effect. Now it was time to prove if he could rise to the occasion in the playoffs. Was he a great playoff performer in the beginning? Check out what happened in the first round against the Milwaukee Bucks. This was a team that won 59 games, 21 more wins than the Bulls, and had the second best record in the East. In Game 3, Jordan would give the NBA world a glimpse of what he ended up doing time and time again in the playoffs. With the Bulls down by 1, he made the game-winning jumper that gave the Bulls their only victory of the series.
Awesome.
This remains one of Jordan's most underrated moments. It surely doesn't live up to all the other clutch shots he's made throughout his playoff career.
Yeah, but it's the first one in the NBA with the pressure of the playoffs involved. That's how you know, okay, this guy has it.
But this proves that he was never scared of making the big shot.
Yeah, same thing we've been, back in the early years of LeBron. I remember us all saying it, ooh. Once it came to the playoffs, it was like, ooh, buddy, he's kind of choking, he's falling apart. But Jordan, right off the bat, even if his team is losing, he wasn't choking.
But the biggest
Clutch.
sign from his early days that he would be the NBA's GOAT came in his sophomore season. He barely played in the regular season due to suffering a serious injury. He had very little time to play his way back into shape. To make matters worse,
To be fair, he was secretly playing himself back into shape against the rules. Yeah, they didn't want him doing that, but he was doing it anyways. Was it North Carolina? I think he went back to North Carolina to do it, to train.
their first round opponent came against the Boston Celtics. This was the greatest team that he'd ever faced in his career. Even with the huge talent discrepancy, even while playing against a team that only lost once at home all season, even while playing against the number 1 rated defense in the league, he scored 49 points on 50% shooting in Game 1. The Celtics had time to regroup and to make adjustments to stop Jordan, except the exact opposite happened. As we all know very well, he went on to record the highest scoring game in playoff history. he had 63 points on 54% shooting. That is when Larry Bird went from calling him the best player in the world to a god. He knew how special the 1986 Celtics were, and if they couldn't stop him, the rest of the NBA would be in huge trouble. That is where we knew he would be the NBA's greatest player.
Awesome.
Better than Wilt Chamberlain when he averaged 50 points per game? Better than Kobe Bryant when he scored 81 points in a game and outscored a strong Dallas Mavericks team by himself? That's right. For reasons we're about to discuss, Michael Jordan had the greatest scoring season in NBA history. When did this happen? This was in the 1986/87 season.
Okay.
When
So
he
a
averaged
second official, like full season. No injury.
37.1 points per game.
Yeah. 37. It's insane. It's insane. And then the next year he wins Defensive Player of the Year, and his scoring only goes down by 2. He's still averaging 35. This guy's crazy. As many times as I hear some of these stories, it still blows my mind, man.
Let's first start with a statistical case. He recorded the highest points per game average by any player since the NBA/ABA merger, which occurred in the 1976/77 season. If we account for all of history, it's the 5th highest points per game average. He also racked up the 3rd most total points scored for a single season. He scored a total of 3,041 points. The only other player to score over 3,000 points in a season is Wilt Chamberlain.
Yep, go figure.
Then we have this other impressive scoring feat. For most players, scoring over 40 points in a game would be one of the highlights of their season. But for MJ, it was considered a disappointment when he didn't score that much.
Yeah, he had to pretty much average 40 in order to get 37 a game.
He was able to score 40 or more points in 37 games. That's nearly half of the season. That is the 3rd most ever, behind only Wilt Chamberlain's 1962 and 1963 seasons. But that's not all. There were also 8 games where he scored 50 points or more. His season high was 61 points, which he did twice against the Atlanta Hawks and the Detroit Pistons. We'll talk more about that game later in this video. Here's another crazy accomplishment that Jordan had this season. Do y'all remember when Kobe Bryant scored 40 or more points in 9 consecutive games in the 2002/03 season? Well, Michael did the same thing. He scored 40 or more points in 9 straight games. After that historic streak, his arms got tired from all that shooting, and he was held to 11 points by the Milwaukee Bucks, which ended the streak. So just for good measure, he had 2 straight 40-point games that could have pushed the streak to 12 games.
That's crazy. It's like he load managed, but on the court. You know, he's like, my arms are dead, but I'm still going to go out there and play.
Speaking of sensational scoring streaks, Jordan also scored 50 or more points in 3 straight games.
Crazy.
By the way, the only other player to match or surpass that streak in the modern era is Kobe Bryant. He scored 50 or more in 4 consecutive games in 2007.
Damn.
The numbers do not lie. What he did in that season was nothing short of historic, and we haven't seen anything like it since. But it's not just the numbers that make this season so impressive. Take into consideration the team that he was playing for. The Chicago Bulls were not a talented team by any stretch of the imagination. That was proven in the previous year when Jordan missed all but 64 games due to a broken foot. They had a 30-52 record. But that's not the only thing. Check out the roster from the 1985/86 Chicago Bulls. Take a look at their 4 leading scorers for the season. Their leading scorer was Orlando Woolridge. He was traded to the New Jersey Nets in the offseason for a 2nd-round draft pick. Next up, we have Quentin Daly.
Wow,
He was
for
their
a 2nd-round draft pick? Orlando?
2nd leading scorer, but he left to play for the Los Angeles Clippers.
Wait, did I hear that right? Did they really trade Woolridge for just 1 2nd round?
Nets in the offseason for a 2nd-round draft pick.
Okay. Damn.
Next up, we have Quentin Daly. He was their 2nd leading scorer, but he left to play for the Los Angeles Clippers. Their next leading scorer was the legendary George Gervin, but he left to play overseas in Italy. Now we have their 4th leading scorer, Sidney Green. He was also traded away for pieces that will end up being of no use to the Chicago Bulls. So this team that wasn't talented to begin with lost all of their best scorers. Who was called upon to help MJ on the offensive end? It was Charles Oakley, who was only in his second season. That was a team that Michael Jordan was stuck with. I know we like to make fun of how bad the 2006 Lakers were, but this was way worse. If you don't believe me, check out what some of the media members were saying about this team during the season.
I mean, I've always considered Kobe's career, it happened out of order when you compare it to Jordan. Because Jordan came into league, crappy team, and he's got to go through these years to build up this lineup. And while he's doing that, he's got the bulk of the responsibilities on the offensive and defensive end. Sucks, but it comes off like the guy's a selfish player. But that's just because he's doing his best to try to do anything within his power to win. But then he builds an empire, and they're good to go. They're winning championships by the 90s. But that took 6 years. And then Kobe, he did it the opposite way because he got drafted in or whatever. He started his career as a Laker, and they were already competing for championships right off the bat, and then winning championships very quickly. And then afterwards, after all that success, then he hits that point in his career. I lost all the talent. There's no scorers on the team but me. I have to carry the load on the offensive and defensive end. And that's when everyone started calling Kobe selfish, because he's out there scoring 40 points a game, 40, 50. Every night it was something crazy. But he was doing that as the team is rebuilding. He's just trying to bridge the gap while the team rebuilds so they can start contending for championships again. But it's just always been interesting to me. They went in a completely different order, but it looks so similar.
Roy Johnson of the New York Times called the Bulls talent poor, and that their season will all come down to exhibitions of 1-on-5 basketball. Curry Kirkpatrick of Sports Illustrated wrote that the Bulls were a collection of untested rookies, veteran rejects, and Jordan. He also wrote that if Jordan concentrated on passing to the other Bulls, Chicago might finish 20-62 or 0-82. The Bulls were undeniably the least talented team in the league, and their losing record reflects that. The only way that they could remain competitive was for Michael Jordan to win games by himself.
Yep, there it is.
For nearly half the time, that's exactly what he did against professional basketball teams. The opposition knew that the Bulls had no one else that could generate offense. Even with every team putting all their attention on stopping Jordan, he still managed to nearly shoot over 50% from the field. But that's not the only factor that makes his efficiency so impressive. It should also be noted that he was playing high-intensity basketball on both ends of the court. He would make this incredible move at one end and then stop your best perimeter player at the other end. In fact, the numbers suggest that he was arguably the best perimeter defender in the NBA. For example, he averaged 2.9 steals per game, which was second in the league. He finished first among all guards in blocks. He had a 1.5 blocks per game average. In this regard, he made history. He became the first player to have more than 200 steals and 100 blocks in a season.
Once again, the guy's trying to win it on both ends all by himself. It's like a nightmare.
Since then, only Hakeem Olajuwon and Scottie Pippen have been able to accomplish this feat. He also finished 4th in defensive win shares and 7th in defensive box plus minus. He wasn't like other players who only play one side of the floor to save energy. He was doing it all for this team. Take for example his performance against the 76ers when he had 56 points and 8 steals. Or his game against
Wait. Say it again.
Sixers when he had 56 points and 8 steals.
Good God, man.
Or his game against the Cavaliers when he had 43 points, 8 steals, and 5 blocks. But of all of his incredible performances, his favorite one came against the bad boy Pistons. Why is that? This is what he said to Sports Illustrated. Quote, "Because we won, and because I switched onto Adrian Dantley in the last few minutes, stole the ball 3 times, and held him without a basket. A victory for defense." End of quote.
Nice.
This was a game where he finished with 61 points on 56% shooting, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks.
I like that because he's not bragging about how many points he scores. He's saying, no, we won this with defense. Love it.
And you wonder why they invented the Jordan rules. It's because they had no answer for him. That is why I believe this is the greatest scoring season of all time. In the playoffs, they faced the same opponent as the previous year. The Boston Celtics won 59 games and were the best team in the East. You might know that the Bulls were swept again by this juggernaut. What you might not know was how close each game was. In Game 1, the Bulls were down by 19 points at halftime. But who was the one that led the comeback?
I wonder.
Michael Jordan was relentless in the second half. He displayed a great balance of attacking and getting his teammates involved. This allowed them to tie the game late in the fourth quarter. However, Robert Parrish ruined his moment yet again with this jump shot. On the other end, as Jordan was looking to make his move, this happened.
Jordan holding left, now on the move against Dennis Johnson.
Uh-oh.
Drops it out of bounds. What is he out of bounds?
Oh, why is he out of bounds? Hold up. Where are you?
Johnson.
Wait, what are you doing out there? Hold on.
This happened.
Okay. It's not an inbound play. Where are you? You right here? Is that you?
Jordan holding
That's you. No.
left, now
What are both of these guys doing out of bounds? Oh, crap.
on the move against
What is this?
Dennis Johnson.
Oh my God. He's been out of bounds for seconds now.
Drops it
That's
out of
terrible. Wow, I never saw that. I never saw it like that before. Wow. Way to help out your star, guys.
bounds. What is he out of bounds? Brad Sellers was standing out of bounds.
It was a rookie mistake
Yeah.
by Brad Sellers. It's a fitting example that proves how much their inexperience hurt them throughout the series. In Game 2, they were facing another double-digit deficit in the second half. And again, Michael led the comeback by making some of the most incredible moves. But the Celtics, with their all-star starting lineup, proved to be too good, while the Bulls kept making some head-scratching mistakes. In Game 3, although Jordan had a tough shooting performance, going 9 of 30 from the field,
Yikes.
they had a lead going into the fourth quarter. They just couldn't hold on. Larry Bird scored 15 points in the fourth quarter.
Of course he did.
With that, they completed the sweep. But the Bulls were right there every game. The potential was there.
Yeah, if he had one decent, like, assister, not assist like assist, but I mean, somebody decent to help him, some decent talent to help him a little bit, even if he had like if he had a Scottie Pippen, he definitely would have won a couple games at least, but he needed somebody. But the fact that he was right there every game, just barely getting beat, and he's doing that all by himself, and he's dealing with a championship team, that's the context I think most people are always missing. They see win or loss. I'm looking at how did you lose? How did you win? And to me, this is incredible to see one guy nearly doing this by himself. Kobe kind of did something similar. He had a little more help. He actually had quite a bit more help, though, when it was like 2006, and he's single-handedly threatening the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs. That was not supposed to happen. But that just shows you how good one individual can possibly be when they can take on a solid team, a full freaking team, a good unit, and he can threaten them all by himself and sometimes even beat them.
They just needed to give MJ more help.
Yep.
Really, there's Michael, and then there's everybody else. Those words were uttered by Magic Johnson, according to writer Bob Bryant in his 1988 column. Although he was on his way to winning his 5th title, he was forced to recognize that Michael Jordan was in a class to himself. For those who make the claim that the only reason that he won all his titles and MVPs was that he played in the less competitive 90s era, check out the competition for the 1988 MVP race. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, who averaged his career high in points, Isaiah Thomas, Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Dominique Wilkins, and Clyde Drexler. They were all in their prime, and they all played the full season. They are all considered by many as top 50 players. And Jordan was clearly a step above all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Keep in mind that this was before he was considered untouchable by the NBA media. He started getting that kind of respect when he started winning titles. Even during that time, when players needed to
I don't think I would agree with that. He was not considered untouchable because they were attacking him constantly while he was winning championships. I mean, I'm thinking about 93 alone. You know, they're making a big deal the whole time, all these gambling allegations and all kinds of crap that they're throwing at him. Anything they could, they would throw at him. You know, they even told him it was his fault that his father got killed. The media did not consider him untouchable. They attacked the hell out of the guy.
their dues before winning such a prestigious award. They recognized that what they were watching was special. All we have to point to is the multitude of records that he broke. He became the first and only player to win the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and scoring title in the same season. He is only one of 2 players to win the scoring and steals title in the same year. He has the highest win shares by any player since the merger. He has the highest value or replacement player rating of all time. This is only the second time that players average over 35 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists per game.
Is there a field goal percentage here? Field goal attempts, no percentage following it. Use some basic math. Jordan shot better. By far. Okay.
He's one of 4 players to record over 200 steals and 100 blocks in a season. And he has the highest field goal percentage by any player that's averaged over 35 points. Statistically speaking, this is the greatest season in modern day history. Notice that he has 9 total categories where he ranks in the top 10 all time. What makes Jordan such a mystical character is that his actual performances were even more impressive than what the numbers say. For example, this is what Indiana Pacers coach Jack Ramsey said about him that season. Quote, "I think he is the best offensive player that I've ever seen.
Agreed.
Just creatively with the ball, he's probably the best ever. When he gets going to the basket, he's tough because he's in the air. It's tough to defend a player in the air. You're not going to block his shot."
Yeah, especially when he's shifting around in the air, for sure.
Quote, "This is the same person that coached against Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, and Dr. J. He was more than qualified to make those remarks. That creativity is what allowed him to score at will. There were 4 games that he scored over 50 points. His season high came against the eventual Eastern Conference champions, Detroit Pistons. He recorded 59 points on 78% shooting. According to Sports Illustrated, Chuck Daly mentioned that they made up their minds right then and there that they needed to commit to a total team effort to stop him. In other words, the Jordan rules were in the works. The Celtics also didn't have any answers for him. He scored 50 points on nearly 60% shooting in the Boston Garden. Then there were 2 other games where he scored over 40 points. If those 2 teams couldn't stop him, the rest of the league were even more helpless. His performance art on the offensive end is what made him one of the most recognized athletes in the world. But his defensive abilities were finally getting the recognition it always deserved. He averaged career highs in steals and blocks. In fact, this was the season where he recorded the most blocks by a guard. No guard has been able to record over 131 total blocks.
He slaps him in the ass afterwards.
1.6 blocks per game.
What was that?
Record over 131 total blocks, or 1.6 blocks per game.
Good Lord.
That season, he had more blocks than 16 of the starting centers in the league. Then we have what the Chicago Tribune wrote about Michael's defensive play that year. Quote, "When it comes to defense, Jordan has been assigned to the opposition's top scorer in critical situations. He has successfully defended offensive threats such as Charles Barkley, Alex English, Isaiah Thomas, Adrian Dantley, Mark Price, and Dominique Wilkins." End of quote. At the time, no one was questioning how immensely valuable he was on defense. That has only been questioned until just recently. It has been reported that the Bulls
By idiots.
keepers would reward him with steals or blocks that he never made. This has caused some to question if he was truly deserving of winning the Defensive Player of the Year award. But here's the reality of the situation. In 1986, when he missed nearly 80% of the season, the Bulls had the worst defensive rating in the league. In the following year, they jumped all the way up to 11th. In 1988, they had the third best defensive rating. Who deserves the bulk of the credit for that improvement?
Yeah, who set the tone?
The player that led his team in steals and blocks. And that was a 6'6" shooting guard.
And that's what's so special about Jordan. We're used to these scores that's all they do. You know, like a James Harden or, you know, so someone like that. It's like all you do is put up points, but you don't lead the charge at all on the defensive end. You expect everyone to cover, you know, pick up the slack. Jordan, man, to do both and to set the tone on both ends and expect everyone to follow. What leadership. Amazing.
Let's keep in mind that players such as Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant were rookies. They were coming off the bench. This team relied heavily on Michael on both ends of the floor. On offense, there was no one else that averaged over 13 points that played more than 30 games. This was still very much a one-man team, and they were still able to win 50 games. It's no wonder that he was awarded the MVP in one of the most competitive races ever. Although the NBA world was used to seeing him perform at this level in the regular season, it was time to get some playoff success. So he responded by making history. In the first 2 games of the playoffs.
Wait, what? I'm sorry.
So he responded by making history.
50.7 rebounds, 2 steals in game 1. Way to set the tone in the playoffs, buddy.
In the first 2 games of the playoffs, he scored back-to-back 50-point games while shooting over 50%. No one, not even Wilt, has been able to score back-to-back 50-point games in the playoffs. This was the beginning of Jordan being known as the Cavs killer.
Yeah.
When he wasn't scoring over 50 points, the Bulls had a hard time beating the Cavaliers. They tied the series at 2 apiece, and it all came down to the deciding Game 5. The biggest adjustment is when Doug Collins went to Scottie Pippen right before the game and told him he would be starting. He responded by having the best game of his young career. He had 24 points on 50% shooting, 6 rebounds, 5 assists.
What was that?
He had 24 points on 50%.
50% shooting. Well done. Good job.
Shooting, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals.
Good all-around game.
It was the first glimpse of what would end up being the greatest NBA duo in league history. Then Michael did the rest. He scored 12 of his 39 points in the fourth quarter. For his first playoff series win, he made even more history. He averaged 45.2 points per game on 56% shooting.
Come on, man.
That is the second highest average for a playoff series ever. That is what was required of him in order for the Bulls to win a series. But it was going to take a lot more than that.
Imagine, just to get out of the first round, you got to average 45 points a game and shooting over 50%.
Defeat their second round opponent. The Detroit Pistons were too good of a team to allow one player to beat them. The Bulls were able to steal Game 2 thanks to Jordan and Sam Vincent scoring over 30 points. That was the exception. For the rest of the games, they did a great job of making the rest of the Bulls players non-factors. Michael had himself a respectable series. He averaged 27.4 points on 49% shooting, 8.8 rebounds, 4.6 assists, and 2 steals per game. It was obvious that this team was not ready to compete against a championship caliber team. Michael's scoring was only going to get them so far. That might have played a role in what he was going to do next.
Nice transition.
For those who believe that Michael Jordan was nothing more than a volume scorer,
Come on.
you might want to close your ears if you don't want to be bombarded with statistics.
I don't even understand how anybody can make that argument knowing that he has a DPOY and how many times he's been first team all NBA all defense. Like, doesn't that just stop that argument to say, oh, he's just a volume scorer? Obviously, he played the other end.
that say otherwise. That also includes his former teammate, Scottie Pippen.
He was a terrible player.
Who apparently believes that Michael Jordan was a, quote, horrible player before he showed up and saved his legacy.
Yeah, because you're the greatest of all time, Scottie Pippen. Thank you for that. You're the greatest of all time. I hope you enjoy it. Michael Jordan was a terrible, horrible basketball player. It's because of you that he became good. That sounds so crazy. Oh, man. I wonder if that's what it really sounds like in his head.
But what I'm about to tell you is not an over-the-top statement, nor is it an opinion.
By the way, my voice is shot, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's get through it.
The season that we're about to discuss by Michael Jordan is arguably the greatest all-around season in NBA history. We're talking about the 1988/89 season. Before we get to the numbers, a few things need to be stated. First, Doug Collins was the head coach for the Bulls, which means the triangle offense implemented by Phil Jackson had nothing to do with the numbers that Jordan recorded.
And Tex.
And secondly, Scottie Pippen was in his second year, and he was not one of the top players in the league.
Little known fact, Tex and Phil were there at this time, and Krause was encouraging Doug Collins to consider the triangle offense because he considered Tex as a brilliant basketball mind, which he definitely was. And Doug Collins didn't want to do it. And that's the main reason that I understand, at least, that Doug Collins got fired, is because he didn't want to implement the triangle. So then rookie head coach in the NBA, Phil Jackson steps up, and Tex is the guy, you know, and that relationship ended up being one that won Phil Jackson 11 championships, that partnership.
He averaged a pedestrian stat line of 14.4 points per game, 6.1 rebounds per game, and 3.5 assists per game. With that out the way, we can now talk about Michael's numbers. He averaged 32.5 points per game on 53.8% shooting, 8 assists per game, 8 rebounds per game, and 2.9 steals per game.
Jeez. His blocks per game went down slightly to 0.8 per game. Here, let me back this up just a little bit. Come on. There we go. Okay, sorry. Sorry, guys. All right, so he had 0.8. Turnovers were a little high for MJ, 3.6. His steals were still off the charts at 3 a game. So yeah, 8 assists, 8 rebounds, 32.5. I'd like to see his shooting percentage, but it's not on this one.
This is only the second time in NBA history that a player has averaged over 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. That other player isn't Oscar Robertson, Russell Westbrook, or James Harden. It was Luka Doncic.
I was going to say Luka. Yep, but in the modern league, so all inflated numbers. But yeah, that's Luka. That's a Luka stat line.
Numbers in a 2022/23 season.
I don't imagine Luka's shooting percentage is nearly as good though. And then he doesn't play defense, so that's a sour part. But stat wise, as far as what it looks like on a stat sheet, yeah, it looks great.
Season ranks among many of the major per game and advanced statistics for a single season in NBA history for the shot clock era. As you can see, there are 10 total categories where he ranks in the top 20. As the numbers indicate, Michael Jordan was statistically one of the league's best defenders. He finished with the highest defensive box plus minus, the 5th highest defensive win shares, and he nearly averaged 3 steals per game. Let's not forget that when we say all around, we don't just mean scoring, rebounds, and assists. It should include both ends of the floor.
Defense, man.
And let's be honest, players such as Oscar Robertson, Russell Westbrook, and Luka Doncic were never the top defenders in the NBA.
Yep.
For this season, Michael Jordan could have
at least out of that list, like Russell Westbrook, he did bring the intensity on the defensive end, but still not to Jordan's level.
Won the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year award for his second consecutive season. The end of the year rankings also indicate that Jordan was the best player in the world, and it wasn't even close. He finished first in scoring, win shares, offensive win shares per 48 minutes, value over replacement player rating, box plus minus, offensive box plus minus, defensive box plus minus, PER, and minutes per game. He also finished 3rd in steals and 10th in assists. The only reason that he was snubbed from winning the MVP was that the Bulls finished with the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference, and they finished with the worst record than the previous year. Understandably, the voters were going to reward the player that helped lift their team to one of the best records, and they gave the award to Magic Johnson.
That's always been a way.
To no fault of Michael, the Bulls were struggling throughout the year. They just didn't have enough offensive weapons to lighten Jordan's load.
Once again,
for example,
like that's the difference between best player and most valuable player. A lot of people don't understand it, and that's why they get mad every year that their guy didn't get picked for the MVP. It's most valuable, so you got to add value to the team. That means you have to be a winning team. And I know a lot of people are angry that Kobe didn't win that. A lot of people thought Kobe should have won MVP both years that Steve Nash did, and I always debate that first year. The first year, no, because no one in the league had more of a major impact on their individual team than Steve Nash did. He wasn't there one year, he was the next, and they went up by like 30-something wins. It was ridiculous, and they're a title contender. Kobe didn't do that. Now, the second year that Steve Nash won the MVP, I do believe that belonged to Kobe, because while the Suns stayed the same, the Lakers did not, So that's the one time where I saw it where I'm like, that wasn't fair. Kobe kind of deserved that.
Example. Sam Perkins of the Dallas Mavericks told Sports Illustrated.
The whole reason I brought that up is if it was given to the best player, that's it, just the best individual player, man, Jordan would have won pretty much every year.
Quote, Michael plays it down, but he's a one-man team. End of quote. Then Sacramento Kings coach Jerry Reynolds told the magazine, quote, he needs a complementary player. The only way to take a pressure off a guy like that is to put more great players around him. End of quote. In an attempt to rejuvenate the Bulls' slumping offense, head coach Doug Collins made the decision on March 11th to move Jordan from shooting guard to point guard. So for the next 24 games leading up to the playoffs, Jordan averaged a combined 30.4 points per game on 49.8% shooting, 10.7 assists per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, and 2.5 steals per game. That also includes a 15-game stretch where he had 11 triple-doubles, and he had 7 straight games where he posted a triple-double. To illustrate how the league was reacting to this new change, here's a quote from an article that I found in the Atlanta Journal and Constitution from 1989. Quote, Michael Jordan now plays point guard, which means the Chicago Bulls give the ball more often to the NBA's most productive offensive player. No other NBA player has made a change of more league-altering significance. Los Angeles Lakers point guard Magic Johnson played center against Philadelphia in the 1980 NBA Finals, but that lasted only one game. In just 16 games at point guard, Jordan has gone from the league's leading scorer in the last 2 seasons to being lumped with Johnson, John Stockton, and Isaiah Thomas as the elite among NBA point guards. Jordan may already be the best of the group. End of quote. You can't blame him for wondering if he could have been the best point guard in the league with Jordan posting Oscar Robinson-like numbers.
I kind of think he would have, because no other point guard I know of can still get you that 30 points a game like it's nothing, but still get you 10 assists, 10 rebounds, and your shooting efficiency is always going to be above 50%. And that shooting efficiency probably would have gone up, that percentage, because now people are knowing him as a passer. So then they can't just triple team him every play. So he's going to actually get some one-on-one looks. Man, not like I would ever change how his career went, but that is the greatest what if. What if Jordan played point guard his whole career?
Now let's check out some of the crazy individual performances that he was having. For instance, there were 5 games where he scored over 50 points. Most notably, he had 52 points on 82.8% shooting against the Sixers. That is currently tied for the 5th most efficient 50-point performance in history. Then there was a game against the Boston Celtics when he had 52 points on 55% shooting, 9 steals, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks. This is the only time in history that a player has posted over 50 points and 9 steals in a game. He had this other crazy game against the Celtics where he nearly posted a quadruple-double. He recorded 42 points on 57% shooting, 11 assists, 9 rebounds, and 8 steals. His regular season was historic. However, it didn't translate to more victories for the Bulls. They won 47 games, 3 less than the previous year. Although there was no one close to reaching his individual greatness, his lack of team success was the biggest reason he was snubbed from winning the MVP.
Yep. Once again, that's just the way it goes.
Chance to prove all his doubters wrong came in the first round against the Cleveland Cavaliers. This was a team that won 57 games, 10 more than Chicago. They were heavily favored to win that series. Michael knew he would need to play out of his mind, and that's what he did. He posted over 30 points and 10 assists for the first 2 games. In Game 3, he had one of the most underrated playoff performances. He posted 44 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, and 5 steals. The Bulls were in the perfect position to upset the Cavs at home. But in Game 4, he had one of the most bittersweet 50-point games. He missed a free throw with 9 seconds left that would have given Chicago a 3-point lead. Instead, Brad Daugherty sent the game into overtime with 2 free throws, and they eventually won the game. Jordan told the Chicago Tribune afterwards that it was the lowest he's ever felt in basketball. He was looking to make up for that in the most dramatic way possible. Game 5 was an absolute thriller from start to finish. The last 3 sequences were especially exciting. Jordan made a clutch jumper over Larry Nance with 6 seconds left. Then Craig Elo made a layup that took the lead with 3 seconds left. That's what set up one of the most historic playoff buzzer beaters
The shot
ever.
on Elo.
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win it! They win it!
Is famously known as the shot. This firmly established him as the greatest clutch performer in the game.
They had no business winning this. It's so great.
And he never looked back. The second round series against the New York Knicks also came with some classic moments. In Game 1, he posted his first playoff triple-double. That includes scoring 9 points in the overtime period that helped the Bulls steal the game. For the next 3 victories, they needed Michael to focus more on scoring. He responded by scoring over 40 points for each of those victories. This series is considered by many as his greatest all-around effort of his legendary playoff career. He averaged 35.7 points on 55% shooting, 9.5 rebounds, 8.3 assists, 2.5 steals, and 1.3 blocks per game. This proves that the Bulls were still very dependent on him to win games. We learned from the 1988 season that this wasn't going to work against the bad boy Pistons. Or would it? The Bulls took a 2-1 series lead. This came after an incredible Game 3 performance. He scored 46 points on 62% shooting and even made the game-winning shot. That's right, this playoff run includes 2 game winners. The Pistons learned the hard way that it's impossible to stop him one-on-one. For the rest of the series, they changed their defensive game plan. Wherever he went, he was surrounded by 3 defenders, and he had no choice but to surrender the ball to one of his teammates. At this point, they weren't ready to exploit the open looks they were getting.
Wow, look how quick the help comes in. I think it's hard to see with this resolution, but I think that's Vinny right there. Watch this. As quick as he makes a move, right there. He's committed to. He's making a move. Bang.
Ready to
Look how quick that trap is. And even if he splits that somehow, he's got two other dudes to get through. And they're big dudes too. And he wasn't quick enough to split that. That's sick. That's crazy defense.
The open looks they were getting. They even forced him to only 8 shot attempts.
Was that Vinny Johnson? I think that was.
Game 5. That is extremely impressive considering how aggressive of a scorer MJ was. The Bulls didn't win another game, and they lost the series 4-2. But this playoff run proved that Michael could lead a team far in the playoffs. He just needed the right pieces in the right system in place. What he did in the 90s took his legacy to another level. But what he accomplished in the 80s helped set up the greatest modern dynasty in NBA history. But what about you all? What is your favorite Michael Jordan memory from the 80s? What do you think was his best season from that decade? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Define best. Like team success or individual. On an individual level, you can't beat winning MVP and DPOY in the same season, while having the being scoring champ and no, he did all three, didn't he? It was scoring champ, MVP, DPOY. Sorry guys, I'm really sick. I gotta get going here. What I think about the video, I thought it was a fantastic video. Really glad I watched it. I've been wanting to watch it for a while. I'm just gonna end the video repeating what I said in the beginning. Just the 1980s, those 6 years of Jordan's career, that was an MVP career all in itself. Then what happened in the next 8 years in the 90s was the greatest of all time, in my opinion, right there. So 2 individual Hall of Fame careers, and the second half of that made him the greatest of all time. Anyways, everyone, what did you think of the video? And that's all I got to say. No After Dark again tonight. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta get healthy. Then I'll get back to 2 vids a day. For now, I'm trying to push it to make sure I give you guys 1 a day. But I apologize. My voice has to be so annoying to hear right now, and it's really going. So it's time to stop. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all. Can't wait to see you all in the comments and talk to you. And like the vid if you liked it. Subscribe if you want more content like this. And I'll see you all soon, all right? All right, be good to yourselves. Be good to your people. Be good to your families, your neighbors, your loved ones. Be safe out there, all right? Peace out, everyone.